Hi, thanks for talking to me again. We had spoken, I think, right before Christmas. I remember there was a Christmas
Yes,
tree in the background, so it must
that's
have
right.
been. So hi, I have seen everything but the finale. So I'm just
Ooh,
I'm just waiting to see the end.
oh
But
wow.
obviously, we're
You've seen more than me. That's great.
gonna yeah. To start off, obviously at the end of episode two, you and Sam are going to get Gavin. So can you maybe sort of tease how that bit is going to go with in regards to, the present that they're in right now and trying to get everybody on board with it?
Yeah, it was one of my favorite parts of the season was having those scenes with an actor that I know very well now and characters who know each other very, very well, but having to start again as if they don't know each other at all. So it gave Ty some interesting challenges of how to get around it. And John Cena, such a wonderful actor and a great scene partner, that it was difficult. It was difficult to make a connection to get through, and there was some really great writing in those scenes as well. So it means that it's all the more fulfilling when he finally gets through to him at the end of episode two, and they go on this new adventure in 2021. And I'm so excited for viewers to see where that leads because it's such a we spent so much time in the sinkholes, especially with Ty. Ty's been down there the
Mhm.
entire time since the beginning. So to be able to see this different storyline unfold and how it folds in, I will say this much, characters that we've met along the way. It's a really clever twist to the way the story is being told.
Let me, I just thought about as you were saying about him trying to convince people, that he's from the future. Do you think if that happened to you, would you believe somebody or would you just kind of like right away be like, get away from me? I don't want to talk to
I,
you.
I actually think I'm because I've been an actor my whole life, I've gotten so used to being imaginative that if
You give
someone
him a
said
chance.
they seemed like they believed it, I'd certainly want to hear what they have to say. I wouldn't dismiss it straight away. I'd like to see where people go with things. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that would get me in trouble, but
Yeah, it's just if you think about it like from a realistic point of view, it just seems so crazy. Like you wonder how many people would have actually stayed there long enough to listen to it.
yeah,
But
Ty's lucky he didn't end up in prison day one.
yeah, true, true. So we get more backstory in season three. Obviously, we get to meet your wife. Is there anything you're allowed to kind of tease a bit about that? Your ex-wife, sorry, not your wife, your ex.
Ex-wife. Yeah, it's such honestly. So Annabelle Stevenson plays that character, and she played it so beautifully. And we only have a few short scenes in episode three, but it was like a whole world of Ty that we get to see as a viewer, and that I got to experience playing him. And for me, early on in the process, because at the very beginning, season one, episode one, Ty is wanting to commit suicide. That begs the question for an actor, well, why? What's brought him to this point? And so much of that we get to now see, when we visit his real life. And essentially we get to see where Ty leaves the world 2 weeks before the sinkhole.
Mhm.
And it's it's a joy, genuinely. Myself and David Applebaum, the show's creator, we had a lot of conversations about the backstory, about the reasons to why Ty might feel that way at the beginning of season one. And now a lot of that backstory stuff that, we just work we did privately and conversations we had privately, just the two of us, are becoming parts of the show, which is, a really joyful part of being an actor that you get to input in that way as well. And David Applebaum and his incredible writers on this show did all the work, but it's nice to have also had um, a small say in the way that the story gets to unfold.
Were you, and I guess this is sort of about what you're saying, but were you surprised though, like between, episode one and now, what's happened? Like, how surprised were you, or were you just kind of like it made sense? Just sort of from your point of view, did anything really shock you or anything like that? Just
I
in
tell
his
you,
story, I mean, particularly, not the dinosaurs and all the other fun stuff, but
it's just occurred to me that the thing that I actually miss most about doing a show like this is that first moment where you get the script. And we're filming so much during
mm,
the course of a season. We're always on set, always filming. But the moment a new script comes through, it doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. I'll try and read it as quickly as possible. I'll try and do that first read as quickly as possible. So I'll be on set sat in a chair, just reading it on my iPad, or as soon as I get home that night. It's like being a kid at Christmas. You get to unpack a new present. And so much of the story I was surprised with. But like I said, in fact, we were lucky, myself and David Applebaum, the show's creator, we got to know each other really well during the pandemic because we started this show 1 week before the world closed down in March 2020. And so that enforced break meant that not only did we get to know each other as people, and he got to know me as an actor, I got to know him as a writer and a creator. We got to tell stories to each other about what might have brought Ty to that moment. I got to say, oh, what about if his ex-wife had these issues and he couldn't help her or save her, quote unquote, even though he's a therapist. And that weight that it would put on the character. And now, lo and behold, in season 3, we get to see so much of that play out. So it was unique. I think it doesn't always happen that way. And again, so much to thank David and the writers for, because it's nice to be able to play those elements and to peel back different parts of a character.
To say at least you probably didn't feel rushed for prep for once. You
Oh,
had
that's for sure.
all that time to think about it.
It's so
Were
true.
you satisfied though with his ending? I mean, is there anything that you feel like you wish you would have gotten to do or see in his life? I mean, I know you can't spoil anything, but just kind of like
Yeah.
an overall.
No, I think the viewers will be very satisfied with the way the whole show ends. And there are so many, because we've got such a big ensemble cast. There are so many stories to wind up, so many
Mm,
loose ends to tie up, and it's a really, really satisfying way to conclude this whole chapter, this whole book, almost of a show. And so it's yeah, for me, I'm very happy with the way that it goes. I always enjoyed endings. It's a really weird thing to say because I love the job I do. But endings are a really important part of that. When you're in the theater, for example, you get to tell a whole story every night, and some afternoons. And so to be able to tell a whole story on television is kind of rare. So I find endings very fulfilling, very satisfying, and this one was a very satisfying end. So I'm excited for the viewers to check it all out.
do you though, were you ever given, you used to talk about like all the story because it was sort of shorter than it was supposed to be. Were you given things though that maybe like the audience doesn't know just to help you kind of prepare from David? Or not that you necessarily can tell me what it is. I was just curious, like as you're going through, are there like things where he's like, you should be aware of this or whatever, because we don't get to see
Well,
maybe everything
that
he
was a
had to
great. Yeah, well, David's such an incredible collaborator. So it wasn't things that he would give me, but it was conversations that we would
say
have that would give
together.
me a
Yeah.
lot. I also got to sit in the writer's room, and so I got to watch the process play out. So when I was in LA, I would go in and sit down and just be part. And that's not just my storyline, of course. It's the whole storyline.
Mhm.
I got to see somewhat of how the sausage was made, and so yeah, it's there are different ways to be a showrunner, to be a creator of a show, but David's way of being a collaborative team builder and being able to go through this together meant that I was always able to go to him with suggestions, with thoughts, with
Mhm.
ideas. I was always able to go to the writers with um, just ways that I could understand the character better. And the deeper I understand a character, especially on television, the easier it is for me to build a full life and a full story.
Mhm.
And it's the part of the job that I really enjoy. So yeah, it was definitely a two-way street.
Very cool. Was there anything that either you were given or that you took from the set to kind of remember
Ha!
by? I always say we're given or took because some people,
Yeah,
that way you can't get in trouble no matter what.
it's a bit of a fire sale when you come to the end of a show, and like between seasons 1 and 2 we knew we were coming back, so there's
Yeah.
nothing that you can take because everything will be used again. I have some costume that was made for me, so it felt like it was only right to keep hold of it. Also, there are these shoes in Australia where we were filming. They're sort of like gum boots in a way, or like everyone in the crew wears them, and they've become very prevalent now here in the US as well. So I'm glad I got to keep those boots because they're kind of trendy now as well. But that was Ty's sort of, they were very like you know uh character shoes are very important anyway, but for Ty being in that environment, it was they were just useful, but now they're kind of trendy, so I'm glad I kept them. And it still has the label inside that says Ty, because we all had to have multiple numbers of our costume, and so I think they say Ty 4 because they were my fourth pair of
There were
shoes.
ones. You have quite a bit.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself or what has changed in your life specifically just since the beginning? that's kind of stands out?
I love that question. Thank you for asking that. I, I'm from the UK. I moved to the US, gosh, 14 years ago to tell bigger stories and stories that were sort of more global feeling. I love the work I did back in the UK, and now with obviously with Netflix and everything, those stories you're able to tell those stories everywhere. But certainly when I was coming up, it was the US, it was LA, that is still the focal point of our industry. And so I'm grateful that in doing television, I get to play a character that's so deep. I get to be on a set that's so big and these big set pieces. It's not, lots of television is, people sat in rooms talking. And so, to be able to be out there having this big adventure and to be able to travel like we have as well. Um, I think for me, it's always about the different stories, the stories you get to tell, the characters you get to play. And so I get to unpack Ty over 3 seasons, over 30 episodes. And it's been genuinely a real joy to see the depths of him. And also, like I said before, to work with David Applebaum, who was so collaborative and supportive of that journey for us as actors. So yeah, uh, it's sort of it's one that will stay with me because so many people love the show as well, and people constantly talking to you about it on the street. So I'm really grateful that I got to do all of those big things in one show.
Yeah, quite a lot of big things, quite literally, in this show. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I really do
Well,
enjoy this show. I'm glad we at least got an end, even if we only got 6 episodes. It's still better to at
yeah,
least get to know what happens and everything. So
I
I'm
agree.
excited
I
to
agree.
see the
Yeah,
last episode. Hopefully they'll send it to us soon.
yes. Enjoy. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye bye.